Commander Kethra stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking at the small blue planet on his screen. He had conquered 47 worlds in his long career, and this one looked like it would be the easiest yet. The planet was called Earth by its people, and his scouts had brought back interesting news about the creatures living there. "Sir, the intelligence report is ready," said his officer, handing him a datapad. Kethra's eyes moved across the information quickly. Humans were a strange species. They lived on a world that would kill most other aliens. The air was poison to many races, the gravity was crushing, and the weather was violent. But somehow these creatures had not only survived but thrived. What made them perfect targets for conquest was their biggest weakness. They could not stop fighting each other. The planet was divided into nearly 200 separate nations, each with its own military. Some of these nations had been at war for decades. Others changed their borders every few years through violence. It was perfect for the Zephyrian way of conquest, down on Earth. Captain Minho was training his soldiers in the mountains of Korea when the sky changed. One moment it was clear blue, and the next it was filled with enormous metal ships that blocked out the sun. The ships were bigger than anything humans had ever built, covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow with their own light. Minho grabbed his radio immediately. "Command, this is Alpha Team. We have unknown aircraft over our position. They are ... They are massive, sir. Nothing like I've ever seen." Similar reports were flooding in from every corner of the globe. In Japan, Major Jiwoo watched the alien ships hover over Tokyo while millions of people stopped in the streets to stare upward. In Germany, Colonel Haijin ordered her pilots to scramble their jets. Even though she knew their weapons would be useless against ships that size, the aliens waited exactly 1 hour before they began transmitting. Every radio, television, and communication device on Earth suddenly carried the same message in broken human languages. The voice was cold and mechanical, like a machine trying to speak. "People of Earth," the message began, "you are now part of the Zephyrian Empire. We've conquered 47 worlds before yours. You have two choices: surrender now and become workers in our empire, or fight and be destroyed completely. Have 24 hours to decide." Commander Kethra expected the usual response. First would come panic as the primitive creatures realized they were outmatched. Then their leaders would begin negotiating with each other, trying to decide who would surrender first. Finally, the strongest nations would betray the weaker ones in hopes of getting better treatment from their new masters. But something different happened instead. Within minutes of the broadcast, every human military on the planet began doing something they had never done before in their entire history. They started working together. Ancient enemies shared intelligence. Nations that had been at war for generations suddenly opened communication channels. Military leaders who had spent their careers planning to fight each other began coordinating their forces against the alien threat. Captain Minho found himself on a secure channel with Major Sang-woo from North Korea, a man he had been trained to consider his enemy. "We have weapon caches in the mountains," Sang-woo said without any introduction. "I am sending you the coordinates. Your people know these mountains better. Use them." Lieutenant Colonel So-young from the Air Force was suddenly sharing flight data with pilots from China, Russia, and the United States. Nations that had never trusted each other with their military secrets were now sending detailed information about their weapons and capabilities. The United Nations called an emergency session, but it lasted less than an hour. Every nation on Earth agreed to the same thing: total military cooperation against the alien invaders. They would deal with their human problems later. Right now, they had a bigger enemy to face. Commander Kethra watched this coordination with growing confusion. His military computers had analyzed thousands of species, and they all followed the same pattern when faced with superior force. They either surrendered immediately or fell into chaos as different groups tried to save themselves. Earth was doing neither. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "the humans are not. They are organizing. Every military on the planet is sharing resources and information. They are treating us as a common enemy." Kethra clicked his mandibles in annoyance. This was unexpected, but not really a problem. United or divided, The humans still had primitive weapons and no space capability. They would be crushed just the same, maybe faster if they gathered their forces together. Begin the standard assault. Pattern, he ordered. Target their major military installations first. Once we destroy their ability to coordinate, they will surrender quickly enough. But as his ships began moving into attack positions, Kethra noticed something else strange. The humans were not running or hiding. Instead, they were moving their forces into position as if they actually planned to fight back against an enemy with superior technology. Overwhelming numbers, complete control of space. It was almost as if these strange creatures had never learned that some fights could not be won. The first plasma beam struck Earth at dawn. Commander Kethra had planned the attack perfectly, hitting major military bases across 12 time zones simultaneously. The alien weapons turned concrete and steel into glowing puddles of metal. Entire airbases vanished in seconds, leaving only smoking craters where humans had stored their primitive aircraft. Lieutenant Yunji was eating breakfast in the cafeteria at Osan airbase when the sky turned bright orange. The plasma beam hit the main runway first, melting the concrete like ice cream in the sun. The second beam destroyed the control tower, and the third turned the aircraft hangars into twisted metal sculptures. But instead of running or crying, Yunji felt something cold and sharp grow in her chest. She grabbed her radio and started talking to anyone who would listen. Her voice was calm and steady, even as more plasma beams fell around her. This is Phoenix Base to all units. Main runway is gone, but we are still here. Switching to emergency? Procedures. Enemy ships are maintaining predictable flight patterns. They think they have already won. Across the globe, similar scenes were playing out. Major Tomin Seoul watched alien fighters destroy his command center. Then immediately moved his operations to the subway tunnels beneath the city. Colonel Sujin in Busan saw her naval base burn, then began coordinating with Japanese forces. Across the water to set up new supply lines, the Zephyrians had expected terror and confusion. Instead, they found humans who seemed to get more organized the more damage was done to them. Every destroyed base was replaced by 3 smaller ones. Every broken communication line was replaced by 5 new ones. "Sir, we have a problem," reported Kethra's tactical officer. "The humans are not behaving according to our models. We should be requesting surrender negotiations by now." Kethra studied the battle reports with growing frustration. His forces had destroyed 90% of Earth's major military installations. But human resistance was actually increasing. Somehow, the primitives were using their own planet's infrastructure against him. Roads became supply routes, civilian buildings became command centers, and underground systems became military highways. The second phase of the assault began when Zephyrian ground forces landed in major cities. The aliens expected to find crowds of frightened civilians begging for mercy. Instead, they found empty streets, and in silence that made their survival instincts scream warnings. Sergeant Biora crouched in the ruins of what had once been a busy shopping district in Seoul. She watched. A Zephyrian patrol moved down the street in perfect formation, their energy weapons sweeping from side to side. The aliens were good soldiers, but they had never fought in a city where every building could hide an enemy. Biora had spent years studying urban warfare, learning how to turn a city into a weapon. Every pile of rubble was positioned to channel enemy movement. Every intact building had been prepared as either a firing position or a trap. The aliens were walking into a maze designed by someone who understood that the defender always had the advantage. "Wait for my signal," she whispered into her radio. Around her, hidden in buildings that looked abandoned but were actually carefully prepared positions, dozens of human soldiers held their breath. The Zephyrian patrol reached the intersection. Where 3 streets met, Biora pressed the detonator. The explosion was not meant to kill all the aliens. It was meant to force them to take cover behind the concrete barriers that Biora's team had positioned the night before. As the patrol dove for protection, crossfire erupted from 6 different directions at once. The battle lasted exactly 37 seconds. When it was over, the surviving aliens retreated, leaving behind their weapons and their dead. But what happened next would have terrified Commander Kethra if he had seen it. As the last alien disappeared around a corner, human soldiers emerged from their hiding places. They collected the alien weapons, checked their own wounded, and then did something. that no other species in the galaxy had ever done after defeating Zephyrian forces. They planted a flag. It was not the flag of South Korea or any single nation. It was a new flag, hastily designed and quickly made, showing a blue-green marble against the black of space. Earth's flag, marking the site of humanity's first victory against an alien invader. Similar scenes were happening across the planet. In Tokyo, Major Hiroshi led a successful ambush against alien forces and planted the Earth flag in the crater left by their weapons. In Berlin, Captain Klaus used captured alien technology to destroy an entire Zephyrian squad, then raised the blue-green banner over the battlefield. The flag began appearing everywhere. Humans spray-painted it on walls, carved it into alien armor, and transmitted the image on hijacked Zephyrian communication frequencies. It became a symbol that the aliens could not ignore or destroy, because it kept appearing faster than they could remove it. Commander Kethra studied the reports with growing unease. His forces were winning every major engagement, but somehow the humans were treating each defeat as a victory. They celebrated their ability to kill even a few Zephyrian soldiers, as if causing any damage to a superior enemy was worth more than preserving their own lives. "Sir, the humans are broadcasting on our frequencies again," his communications officer reported. They are playing music. The music was strange and primitive, but it carried across every Zephyrian communication channel. Along with the music came images of that blue-green flag and messages in various human languages. The meaning was clear even without translation. Earth was still fighting, and they were not afraid. For the first time in his long military career, Commander Kethra began to wonder if this conquest might not go according to plan. 3 weeks had passed since the invasion began, and Commander Kethra was staring at reports that made no sense. His forces should have controlled the entire planet by now. Instead, they controlled nothing. Worse, his casualty numbers were climbing every day, and the humans seemed to be getting stronger instead of weaker. "Sir, we have lost another transport ship," his tactical officer reported with barely hidden fear. "The humans have learned to pilot our own vessels. They are using our technology against us." The report was true. Captain Unesio had been a simple Navy officer just 1 month ago. Now she commanded a captured Zephyrian assault craft, leading a crew of humans from 6 different countries. Her engineer was a man named Kenji who had been repairing televisions before the war. Her pilot was Klaus, who had flown passenger jets. Her weapons officer was Maria, who had been a computer programmer. "The alien power systems work like our fusion research," Unesio explained to her mixed crew as they studied the captured ship's controls, "but they made them much more efficient." "Engineer Kim, can you copy this design?" Sergeant Kim nodded seriously. He'd been fixing cars in a small town just weeks ago. "Give me 12 hours and parts from 3 more wrecked ships. I can build something that will work." This was what terrified the Zephyrians most. Humans did not just fight with courage. They learned impossibly fast. Technology that should have taken them decades to understand was being copied and improved in days. Every piece of alien equipment that fell into human hands became a weapon turned against its makers. Major Jin'e coordinated the global resistance from a bunker that had once been a subway repair shop. Her screens showed real-time updates from every continent. In Australia, native hunters were teaching soldiers how to track aliens through the wilderness. In Africa, guerrilla fighters who had spent years perfecting hit-and-run tactics were sharing their knowledge with European special forces. But the most frightening thing for the Zephyrians was not the military resistance. It was the psychological warfare. Every human victory, no matter how small, ended the same way, with that blue-green Earth flag planted in the ground like a territorial marker. Lieutenant Colonel Wu Jin led a night raid on a Zephyrian supply depot, his team moving through the facility like ghosts. His soldiers came from Korea, America, and Russia, countries that had been preparing to fight each other just months ago. Now they worked together with perfect coordination. "Plant the charges," he whispered to Sergeant Natasha, a Russian demolitions expert who had volunteered for the mission. "Make sure they can see the flag before the explosion." The supply depot did not just explode. It became a message. The massive Earth flag, visible from orbit, marked the place where humans had turned alien logistics into a weapon against the invaders. Every Zephyrian ship that passed over the crater could see proof that these primitives were not just fighting back, they were winning. The alien soldiers began to fear something they had never encountered in 3 centuries of conquest: an enemy that treated impossible odds as a personal challenge. When Zephyrian forces surrounded human positions, the humans did not surrender. They fought until the last soldier was dead, often taking more aliens with them than seemed possible. Corporal Desong found himself trapped in a building with only 3 other soldiers and no way to escape. 20 Zephyrian warriors surrounded the structure, calling for surrender in broken Korean. Instead of giving up, Daesoon smiled and activated his radio. "This is Eagle Team to all units. We are surrounded and low on ammunition. Estimate 20 enemy soldiers outside our position. We are going to make this expensive for them." The battle lasted for hours. When Zephyrian reinforcements finally entered the building, they found 4 dead humans and 15 dead aliens. Carved into the wall with a combat knife was a crude drawing of Earth's flag and a message in Korean that roughly translated to "come and take it." These scenes were happening everywhere. Humans would sacrifice strategic positions to inflict maximum casualties on their enemies. They would ram their primitive aircraft into superior alien fighters in suicide attacks that defied all military logic. They would escape from prison camps and sabotage alien equipment from within their own cells. Most disturbing to the Zephyrians was humanity's complete refusal to accept defeat. Captured humans provided no intelligence, showed no fear, and frequently turned their imprisonment into an opportunity for sabotage. They seemed to view certain death as just another tactical option. Commander Kethra studied the psychological profiles his experts had compiled on human behavior. The results were deeply troubling. Unlike every other species the Zephyrians had conquered, humans appeared to become more dangerous when they were losing. Desperation made them creative, hopeless. Situations made them take risks that often succeeded against all probability. "Sir, we are receiving another broadcast from the human resistance," his communications officer reported. "They are asking us to surrender." Kethra's mandibles clicked in disbelief. "They want us to surrender? They are losing this war by every measure we have." "Yes, sir. But they are offering us safe passage off their planet if we leave immediately. They say they will allow us to keep our ships and technology as long as we never return to their solar system." The commander stared at the message in shock. The humans were losing the war, but they were negotiating from a position of strength. They were offering terms to an enemy that vastly outnumbered them, as if they believed victory was only a matter of time. For the first time in his long career, Commander Kethra began to fear that they might be right. The counteroffensive began on a Tuesday morning at exactly sunrise in 12 different time zones. Major General Sunmin had spent 3 months planning the operation from a command center buried deep beneath the Swiss mountains. Every human military unit on the planet received the same message at the same moment. "All units, this is Earth Command. Operation Rising Flag is now active. Today we stop running and start hunting. Remember, we are not just fighting for our cities or our countries. We are fighting for the right to exist as free people." The first target was the Zephyrian supply network. Captain Hyan Wu led a team of volunteers and captured alien shuttles toward the massive ships floating in Earth's orbit. His crew included former enemies who now worked together with perfect trust. Anna had been a German Air Force pilot. Dmitri was a Russian submarine officer. Yuki was a Japanese naval engineer. They trained together for weeks, learning to fly alien ships in hidden bases around the world. Approaching the target vessel, Anna reported as she guided the shuttle toward a Zephyrian supply ship. Boarding teams prepare for contact. Remember, they have never faced this kind of attack before. The Zephyrians had ruled space for 3 centuries. Their ships were designed to fight other ships, not to resist boarding parties. The idea that primitive, ground-based creatures would dare to attack them in their own element was so impossible that they had no defenses prepared for it. "Lieutenant, Commander Minjay cut through the alien hull with a tool that mixed human welding equipment with captured Zephyrian technology. His assault team moved through corridors designed for different biology, carrying weapons that should not have worked, but did. At every junction, they planted small Earth flags, turning the ship into a symbol of human defiance. The aliens fought bravely, but they were fighting in their own hallways against an enemy that treated impossible situations as normal. When the humans ran out of ammunition, they used alien weapons. When those failed, they used improvised explosives. When those were gone, they used their bare hands and whatever they could find. But the real turning point came when humanity demonstrated something the Zephyrians had never seen in 3 centuries of conquest: the willingness to sacrifice everything rather than surrender. Colonel Yunsu stood in the command center of Earth's last major orbital defense platform. The station was dying around her, its hull cracked by alien plasma fire and its life support systems failing. But the facility still controlled something that made her smile grimly: Earth's nuclear arsenal. She had been given authorization for the most desperate plan in human history. Every nuclear weapon on the planet would be launched simultaneously. At the Zephyrian fleet, the radiation would poison Earth's atmosphere for decades, but it would also eliminate every alien ship in the solar system. All stations, this is Orbital Command. We are beginning Protocol 7. Repeat, Protocol 7 is now active. If they want our world, they can have it radioactive. The missiles began rising from silos that had been built to fight human wars. Weapons that had been designed to destroy human cities were now humanity's last hope against an alien empire. Hundreds of nuclear warheads climbed toward space, their bright trails visible from every continent. Commander Kethra watched the primitive rockets approach his fleet and felt something he had never experienced in 3 centuries of military service: pure terror. The humans were not just willing to die fighting. They were willing to make their own planet uninhabitable rather than surrender to his forces. Sir, incoming transmission from the human command. His communications officer reported with a shaking voice. The message was simple and delivered imperfect. Zephyrian by someone who had learned the language in just 3 months. Commander Kethra, this is Major General Sunmin of the Earth's Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces from our solar system. If you do not, we will detonate nuclear weapons in the middle of your fleet formation. Your ships will be destroyed, and our planet will be poisoned. But you will be dead, and we will eventually recover. Your choice. Kethra stared at his tactical display in disbelief. The human missiles were close enough now that he could see their heat signatures. His weapons could destroy them, but not all of them, and not before some reached his ships. Humans had calculated the exchange perfectly. They were willing to trade their world's future for his fleet's destruction. Sir, what are your orders? His tactical officer asked. For the first time in Zephyrian military history, a conquest fleet faced an enemy that valued freedom more than survival. These creatures were not just refusing to surrender, they were willing to commit species suicide rather than accept slavery. Kethra looked at his officers, all of them staring at him with the same question in their eyes. They had families in distant star systems. They'd served the hegemony faithfully for decades. But they had never faced an enemy that was completely, utterly willing to die rather than submit. Signal the fleet, he said quietly. Begin withdrawal procedures. All ships are to leave this system immediately. Sir, the hegemony command will demand an explanation, his aide warned. Kethra watched the human missiles tracking his ships as they began to retreat. Tell them we encountered a species that cannot be conquered. Tell them these humans are too dangerous to fight. Tell them anything you want, but get us away from this system before they decide to follow through on their threat.
Yes.
Fleet fled toward deep space. Earth's nuclear missiles detonated harmlessly in empty space. Their bright flashes visible across the planet as symbols of humanity's willingness to pay any price for freedom. 6 months after the Zephyrian retreat, Captain Sojin stood on the bridge of humanity's first interstellar ship. The vessel was a strange mixture of human engineering and captured alien technology. Its hull painted with the Earth flag alongside, symbols from every nation that had helped build it. Today they were about to make first contact with alien civilizations as equals, not as conquered people. Approaching the Kepler system, reported Navigator Lee, who had learned stellar navigation by studying captured Zephyrian computers. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple artificial structures. There are definitely intelligent species living here. The ship's crew represented the best of Earth's united military forces. Engineers from Germany worked alongside tacticians. From Korea, pilots from Japan shared duties with communications specialists from Brazil. The old divisions between nations had been permanently changed by the shared experience of fighting for their species' survival. "Captain, we are receiving multiple transmissions," reported Communications Officer Maria, her voice filled with surprise. They are offering us tribute." The alien messages were desperate and frightened. 3 different species were volunteering resources, safe passage, and even territorial rights. All of this to avoid fighting with the creatures from the Death World, who had done the impossible, defeated a Zephyrian conquest fleet. The story had grown as it spread across the galaxy. Commander Kethra's surviving officers had returned to Zephyrian space with tales that seemed impossible to believe. They spoke of humans who breathed poison gas, lived on a world with crushing gravity, and treated warfare as entertainment. They described a species that turned every disadvantage into a weapon and preferred mutual destruction to surrender. The Earth flag had become the most feared symbol in known space. Pirates changed course when they saw it on long-range sensors. Slave traders avoided any system where humans might be present. Even the mighty Zephyrian hegemony had officially declared Earth's solar system a restricted zone, not to keep humans contained, but to protect other species from them. Admiral Kanjo now commanded Earth's growing space fleet from a station built around captured alien technology. Intelligence reports from across human space told the same story everywhere. Alien civilizations were terrified of humans and eager to avoid conflict at any cost. "Sir, we have received requests for military assistance from 7 different star systems," his aide reported. "They are offering to pay us significant resources if we will fight their wars for them." The Admiral smiled grimly. Humanity had discovered something remarkable about galactic politics. Being the most feared military force in known space was incredibly profitable. Species that had advanced technology but peaceful cultures were desperate to hire human mercenaries to protect them from more aggressive neighbors. But the real victory was not military or economic. It was psychological. Every alien species that encountered humans came away with the same understanding. These creatures could not be conquered, controlled, or intimidated. They would fight impossible odds with primitive weapons rather than accept defeat. Captain Minho, now commanding a mixed human-alien crew on an exploration vessel, received a typical example of humanity's new reputation when he approached a trading station in the Centauri system. The station's administrator, a peaceful species called the Veltar, immediately offered him free docking, fuel, and supplies. "Please, honored humans," the Veltar administrator said in broken English he had learned specifically for dealing with Earth ships. "We offer gifts of friendship. We have heard stories of your great battles. We wish no conflict with the warriors who defeated the Zephyrian Empire." Minho accepted the gifts politely, but privately he was amazed at how the story had changed. In the telling, according to galactic rumors, humans were 3 meters tall, had steel bones, and could survive in the vacuum of space without protection. Some stories claimed that Earth was actually a prison planet, where the galaxy's most dangerous warriors had been exiled. The truth was simpler, but perhaps more frightening. Humans were not the strongest or most advanced species in the galaxy. They were simply the only species that refused to accept defeat under any circumstances. When faced with superior enemies, they did not surrender or negotiate. They found ways to win anyway. Lieutenant Colonel Wu Jin discovered this firsthand. When his ship encountered a group of Zephyrian pirates in deep space, the moment the pirates identified his vessel as human, they immediately surrendered without firing a shot. Their leader sent a message begging for mercy and offering information about other pirate groups in exchange for safe passage. "Please, honored humans," the pirate leader transmitted. "We did not know this territory was claimed by Earth. We will leave immediately and never return." We offer no resistance to the mighty warriors who destroyed our empire's greatest fleet. Wu Jin accepted the surrender and let the pirates go with a warning. Later he learned that his single ship had been facing 12 pirate vessels with superior firepower. But the pirates had been so terrified of fighting humans that they had not even considered resistance as an option. The blue-green flag of Earth now flew over colonies on dozens of worlds. Each settlement was a reminder that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from advanced weapons or superior numbers, but from the simple refusal to surrender. The galaxy had learned to fear Earth's flag not because of what it represented, but because of what it promised. Humanity would never stop fighting for their right to exist as free beings, no matter the cost. And that promise, backed by the legend of their impossible victory over the Zephyrian Empire, was enough to keep the peace across hundreds of star systems in the end. Humanity had conquered the galaxy not through force, but through reputation. They had become the species that others feared to fight, and that fear had made them the most powerful force in known space. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.